We're talking about college basketball championship games, the Big Ten, SEC, AAC, and the Atlantic 10. And Selection Sunday is just 24 hours from now. So before we get to that point, I want to know, Jake, how much do you think a win matters for a championship game? Is it worth a seed, 2 seeds? Do any of these teams really make a jump, or is there not much motivation since everyone's real goal is to get to March Madness?
I mean, it always helps to win your conference tournament. That's an extra win on the resume. It's an extra feather in your cap. You got to hang a banner in your home arena. But in terms of seeding for March Madness, I don't really think it means a ton. The real benefit, honestly, is the additional win over a quad one opponent, potentially a ranked opponent, to help booster your resume. But the committee is not going to let one win, let it be in a conference championship game or not, override 35, 40 games of the entire rest of the season. I think definitely adding a good signature win in a conference championship game can help. It can definitely move you up a seed line, maybe 2 in a good case scenario. But, I don't think the committee is going to look at, say, Auburn if they win and say, well, Auburn won the SEC title. They're an automatic lock for the number 1 seed line now. They're probably going to be just staying at the same line they were going to be at before.
What about Houston and Iowa State today? Houston was a 5-point favorite. I think you bet on them. They ended up getting blown out in the Big 12 championship game by Iowa State. Is that going to help move the needle for Iowa State, or is that not a big deal for them since they were already ranked pretty high?
It definitely is good for Iowa State. Getting a win over the number 1 ranked team in the country in Houston is always a good thing. Houston is going to be on the 1 seed line. I think in a situation like this, it may be a potential tiebreaker, right? Like if their committee is being like, do we go with Arizona or Iowa State for this number 2 seed? Well, maybe they say, well, look, Iowa State, they just won their conference championship game. They just beat Houston. Then we got them as a 1 seed. That'll be the tiebreaker. So I think it helps them in that aspect for sure. Houston, I don't really think it hurts. I think they're going to be locked into a number 1 seed no matter what.
That's fair. Well, the first game we've got is the Big Ten Championship. You have Wisconsin against Illinois, 3-point spread. The money line is set at 150. That's exclusive on BroThrow. But I watched that Illinois game today. They were down 15 in the last 8 minutes, came back to win that one by 10. Terrence Shannon scored 40 points. Were you surprised to see that they're favored over Wisconsin since Wisconsin obviously upset Purdue today, or do you think this line's fair?
I think it's a fair line. Illinois has been red hot as of late, just absolutely playing some of their best basketball this season when it matters most. As you said, Terrence Shannon with the 40 bomb. That's very, very rare in college basketball to see a 40-point performance. But he's elevating his game at the right time. Illinois has also won 6 out of the last 7 outright, with their only loss being to Purdue by 6 points. So that's not necessarily a terrible loss. So I think the line is pretty fair. Wisconsin has been a little bit colder, but they've been on a really good run so far in the Big Ten tournament. I like the way they're playing. I think the line makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, the other night, Nebraska crushed Indiana, and, Tominaga had a big night. And then today, things kind of slowed down the second half. Nebraska couldn't score. I mean, they literally could not score to save their lives. And then every time they'd foul or get in position like where it looked like they were going to get a foul, Illinois capitalized. So they basically went back to their average after that Indiana game when everyone was all pumped up. Do you think Illinois is going to bounce back to average since they were able to put up 58 points in the second half today, or do you think they can stay just as hot?
Asking for 58 points and a half is asking for a lot, no matter how you slice it. A lot of times I found in college basketball, second halves are a lot higher scoring than first halves because of the fact that, there's a lot of fouls to extend the game. The time slows down. Each possession means more and more. Teams are more willing to even give up free baskets at the expense of not giving up a foul. If let's say it's like a 6 or 7 point game. So I'm not going to say that Illinois can't do it. However, I do think that Wisconsin's defense is very solid. As I said, they mentioned to find a way to stop Edey and stop Purdue with all 3 of their centers out in overtime, get the couple stops they needed. And I think they're really well coached on the defensive side of things. So I don't know. I think this is going to be a good matchup. I think both teams' offenses are pretty locked in. I think the over is actually a good look here at 150 for all those reasons I said before. We think there should be fouls extending the game. This is going for the championship. So if you're down 5 points and you have a chance to get a basket, foul, get some misses, another basket, you're going to take it because this is your opportunity. So Illinois has been playing in some really, really fast-paced, up-tempo games as of late. They're scoring consistently in the 70s plus with chances to get in the 90s plus. So I think the over here is a really strong look in my opinion.
I don't know much about the over or the under. The total I'm staying away from, but I can tell you this. Based on how they played at least, I like Illinois right now. They didn't have to go to overtime. They fought back through adversity. Obviously, Wisconsin fought hard at the end to beat Purdue, but I think people are going to overvalue that win. I think that's part of the reason that this line being so close makes me like Illinois in this spot.
Yeah, I think I lean towards Illinois as well. They have the best player on the court in Terrence Shannon, and that is not something to overlook. When it comes down to it, if this game is super close, I rely on him out of almost anyone on the court to get a bucket. Wisconsin is a little bit more of a methodical team. They got AJ Storr on the outside, Chucky Hepburn, Max Klesmet. All these guys can shoot it. But I think I trust Illinois' pace a little bit more, especially since I think the over is going to hit. That is going to play to Illinois' strength a little bit more so. So I agree with you on Illinois.
Let's go on to the SEC championship game, Florida and Auburn. Obviously, I think a lot of people expected Auburn to be here. Florida, maybe not so much. And I think that's reflected in the spread at -6. But the last time that these two played, Auburn was coming off a huge win over Bama, and they were in a look-ahead spot against South Carolina. They ended up dropping one at Florida. I think they lost by 15. And now they're a big dog. Florida's a big dog. So do you think Auburn's that much better on paper? Do you think that there's bias because of who Auburn's played? What's the situation here?
I mean, on paper, Auburn is one of the strongest teams in the entire country. They're ranked 4th overall in Ken Palm's advanced rankings with the number 10 overall offense and number 5 overall defense. So on both ends of the court, they can really get it done. And if you look at their line of work this season, the Florida loss is one that stands out super, super egregiously, right? They only scored 65 points against Florida, and this is the number 10 offense. It plays at a fast pace, and Florida also plays at a fast pace. So definitely a really poor performance at Auburn. They went 3 of 17 from the 3-point line. I think they're definitely going to remember that and want to play for revenge in the spot for sure.
So we're going to say this is a spot where it hurts Florida that they won the first game in Gainesville.
I don't necessarily think that it hurts them to have won the game, but it definitely is going to give Auburn some added motivation that they wouldn't have had they lost. Never a bad thing to win games, though.
In this spot, I lean Florida because they're confident. They beat Bama twice in March already, and they handled A&M today, even though they were down almost 20 at one point. 6 points in the conference championship game. We've seen in some other ones that 6 points is way too many. So I'm going to lean with the dog in this spot. And I don't know about the money line. I'm just going to stick with the points.
I'm going to lean with Auburn here. They've been so dominant in their wins this season. Like every time they win, it really feels like it's a blowout. Today against Mississippi State was their only single-digit win of the entire season, if I recall correctly. I think that Florida is a really good team. They're a really strong rebounding team, but Auburn is really strong at all aspects, including rebounding, including shooting, including defense. 6 is definitely a lot to give, but I like Auburn to get revenge here, and I think they're going to take care of business and cover the spread.
So Temple just upset FAU as a 15-point dog. UAB was a 7.5-point favorite at Temple 9 days ago, and they beat them by 28. And I think you told me that game was rigged, or there was some rumor about some betting deal going on with that. Now today, obviously, UAB is 6.5-point favorite since Temple's been hot ever since. But what happened with that betting rumor? Do you think there was truth to it?
So this was a crazy story that came out a couple weeks ago. Temple was a 2.5-point dog to UAB, standard. Then all of a sudden, for some reason, the line tanked to 8 points. And everyone was a little bit confused because normally when the line moves that dramatically, there's some players that are injured or missing the game or some sort of big dramatic change to the current line or to the current standing of the game that would cause it to happen. And that wasn't the case in this game. There were no injuries to speak of. There was no news at all. Just the line completely dramatically changed. And then what happened? UAB went on to win this game by 25 plus points. It was a complete blowout. They covered any spread easily. And there were rumors that this game was fixed, that Temple was throwing the game, that there was mob stuff going on, the Boston mob. And yeah, crazy situation. But since then, Temple has been undefeated, and they've now found their way back to the conference championship game, going up back against UAB.
Well, we talk about motivation being a factor, and Temple's beaten a 25-win FAU, a 20-win SMU, a 19-win Charlotte. And UAB's good, but they're not that much better than anybody else they've played this week. So if Temple finds a way to win, they're going to get into the tournament, aren't they?
If Temple wins this game, they are automatically qualified for the tournament. Whoever wins this game is locked in. I think UAB will probably make it regardless. They've had a strong enough season. But yeah, Temple. Well, actually, UAB probably won't make it regardless. I think whoever's going to need to win this game is going to be in both teams to be pretty highly motivated here.
So heavy motivation. If that betting scandal's true, then I kind of like Temple to win. I love them to cover at 6.5. And you have guys who actually want to win this game this time around, if that scandal's true, like I said. And if they're going to throw something different at them, I don't think UAB is going to be as prepared. We talk about how it's so hard to beat a team twice in one season. Well, this is going to be twice in 1 month, I think. So what do you think, UAB or Temple?
Temple is playing so well. It's tough to not want to take them plus 6.5. I don't know what to think about this betting scandal. I lean towards it being true, frankly. Like you never really see rumors of that magnitude where people come out and straight up say like this game was fixed, this game was rigged, and the dramatic line movement is pretty unexplainable otherwise. I think Temple should definitely be wanting to play for revenge. That way they could say, "Oh, it wasn't rigged. We just had a bad game." Blah 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 blah. And I like taking the points here in a conference championship game where they're playing pretty well. UAB does have a size advantage. They do have a rebounding advantage. My guy Yaxel Lendenberg is a complete beast in the paint, and Temple's gonna have a real tough time keeping him off the glass. But if they can keep him even somewhat contained on the glass, I feel fine with them. And even if not, getting 6.5 points when they're playing really, really well, I think it's a good move right here. I'm on Temple with you.
All right, well, since there's so much on the line, this is going to be one of the biggest games of the day and one to watch. Last, we got the Atlantic 10. I actually had to go find this logo online because I've never had to use it for one of our BroThrow videos. But we've got Duquesne and VCU. VCU, a 2-point favorite. 11 days ago, these two teams played. VCU lost by 10 at home. How did they end up as the favorite in this spot?
It's just an upset for Duquesne in the first spot. VCU, higher ranked. They've been much more successful this season. They finished the conference with a better record. It just, the books think that it was kind of maybe a fluky win for Duquesne in the first spot.
Well, to get to this point, VCU had to beat Fordham, UMass, and St. Joe's, but they were expected to win all those games. Duquesne had to beat St. Louis and then upset Dayton, and then they had to win as a 1-point favorite over St. Bonaventure. What's the motivation factor here? Who do you think the more motivated team is?
I think both teams are going to be very motivated. VCU, I don't think is a lock to get in if they lose, and Duquesne is certainly not a lock to get if they lose. So both teams should definitely want to win their conference championship, get into March Madness. Both teams are even relatively similar in style. They're both more defensive focused, really want to make you grind out possessions, beat them in the half court, and it's tough to do so. So I think it's going to be a very intense physical game. As you can see by the over-under being only 126.5, the books are not expecting this to be a high-scoring game whatsoever, neither am I.
Yeah, you talk about VCU being the team who's ranked higher, obviously supposed to be better, got upset at home, revenge spot. You've got March Madness on the line. At only 2 points, I think I got to take them.
Yeah, I definitely like VCU here too. I think they're looking for revenge. Not to mention, I think that VCU has the better offense. So in a game where both defenses are really, really elite, you got to side with the best offense, right? And I think VCU's defense might even be slightly better than Duquesne's in my own personal opinion as well. So I'm sticking with VCU here.
Well, we're going to be betting all these on BroThrow. So if you want to sign up to play for free from any state in the U.S., you just go down to the description box below. You type in brothrow.com/YouTube. The invite code to get onto the site is YouTube. And once you're in, you can bet on spreads, money lines, totals. The odds, obviously, you see on the screen. Those are the best odds you'll find anywhere online. Plus 100 against the spread and on the total. The money line odds are better than any app or website out there. And when you go and play, you pay with Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. It's really easy to get your money out. There's no withdrawal fees. So make it easy. Try BroThrow out if you haven't yet. Jake, thank you for the picks today. We're going to do videos throughout March Madness. We'll talk about the round of 64. I think we'll talk about the round of 32, 16, and then obviously the Final Four. So we got some stuff to talk about now with the tournament coming up.
Very exciting time. March Madness is, in my opinion, the best event of the entire year to gamble on. Very excited to hit that 16-leg parlay on the first day of the tournament because that's a lock. Always,
I know you like to take the long shot parlays, but I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for the picks, and hopefully Nebraska gets a good seed because I want to watch my team have a chance to make a run this year.
Sounds good. See you in the next one.